Tonight we're going to make homemade vanilla ice cream. Now we use this for family nights or any opportunity we can to create a family memory. We really like ice cream in our home. We do not purchase it from the store, however, and we'll get into that a little bit later, the reasons why we only make it here, either from our own goat's milk and cream or from an area dairy where we buy organic cream and cow's milk from. We use a recipe that's really basic. We found this years ago in a cookbook for goat's milk. We picked this recipe because our two oldest boys were very young and we didn't want to use raw egg. There's a million different recipes for ice cream. One of the common things is to use raw egg, or the other one is to cook a custard. And that form of ice cream didn't really suit our family, so this works really well. It simply calls for goat's milk, or sorry, reading out the recipe book, milk, cream, sugar, and vanilla. The quantities out of the recipe itself is 2 cups milk to 2 cups cream, 1 cup sugar, and vanilla to flavor. So we have our container ready. The paddle can be in or out at this stage in the game, doesn't really matter. But you pour in your cream and your milk. We measured it into a pitcher, but both cream and milk are in that container. Then put in your sugar. And your vanilla. Measuring cup there. That is really a personal flavor. We like it heavily vanilla. So, some people don't like it as strong, so you would obviously add less. The original recipe calls for a teaspoon of vanilla. We have never found that to be enough. I don't even measure it. I just squirt it from the bottle into the container, and then after it's been churned for a few, we taste it to see how the flavors have mingled, and sometimes we will add more. We've never ever felt that we have over added vanilla to this. Once you've got your cylinder filled with your ingredients and you put it back in your container, hold on just a minute, honey, for just a second. You start to layer your ice and your salt. If you add a little bit of water, half a cup to the bottom, it helps to get the ice and salt to start to culminate together. Because the purpose of the salt is to melt the ice to make it really good and cold, and that just helps a little bit. So you go ahead and you layer your ice and your salt. What, about a 1/4 cup of salt around each layer? Is that what you use?
Yeah. Kosher salt or rock salt.
Yeah, the larger salt's better, but we have used table salt before in a pinch. You don't have to have anything special if you don't have it in-house. That's okay. Improvisation is a good thing. Larger salt does seem to do a better job, but it's not necessary. Now, one of the reasons we make homemade ice cream, well, first off, when we started to make it, we did it because we raised goats, so we had a surplus of goat's milk. The other reason was it just tastes better. And as time progressed, we started to realize that store-bought ice cream holds a multitude of ingredients that you normally would not put into your body. There's a lot of chemicals involved in it when it comes to the flavorings, and if there's coloring in the ice cream from the flavorings. There's also fillers, and one of the most common fillers used in the food industry today is called cellulose. Now, when you read that in the back of an ingredient, lots of times processed food, ice cream, crackers, those type of things, you don't think cellulose. It doesn't sound quite so harmful. First off, most people can pronounce it, because that was always the rule of thumb, don't eat it if you can't pronounce it. Okay, well, you can pronounce cellulose. And to me, before I knew what cellulose was, I always thought it was like a form of fat. Now, I wanted to think that, these food processors, these manufacturers that are governed by our FDA, were on the up and up, and of course would be concerned, but as you become educated, you realize that that's not always the case. Cellulose, in most instances, is wood pulp. Now, I'm not one to sit down with a plate of wood pulp or put one in front of my family and expect them to eat it. So that's really a good reason why we stay away from store-bought ice cream. There are so many additives and preservatives in those ice creams, though, and the majority of the words, again, can't even be pronounced. Just go to your local grocery store and pick up your favorite brand and look on the back. I know Breyers is a natural ice cream, but even then, they still have things in it that you really don't want to be eating. It is the best choice on the store-bought shelf, but it's not a very creamy ice cream, and a lot of people don't like that. Another reason to take the time to make homemade ice cream is the opportunity to create memories with your family. It's not a big deal to go to the grocery store to pick up a half a gallon of ice cream, but it's not creating very much of a memory. You hear the old folks talk about remembering being at grandma's and grandpa's and having ice cream on Sundays afternoon, and that's a nice little heritage. Little simple things we can do to create memories with our children. They'll enjoy the opportunity to do this, especially as a family. The opportunity to lose is something when it's just themselves doing it or just yourself doing it. But when you can bring the whole family together into a unique situation that you know that they're not going to be exposed to on a average daily basis at someone else's house, it's an awesome opportunity to make something that's delicious, healthy, if it can be healthy. It's kind of a contradiction. I realize that. But if you got a sweet tooth like our family, you look for alternatives to create them, the sweet items as healthy as possible. But it is an awesome opportunity to make a delicious treat, to create a memory, and to enjoy your family for a while. And on a side note there, before I forget, you don't have to have your own dairy animals, and you don't have to buy organic cream or milk. It doesn't have to be that raw. You can just buy regular cream from the grocery store or milk. Yeah, granted, it's not as healthy, but it's still the opportunity to make that memory with your family.
Go. You gonna turn it?
Everyone gets to get in on the family fun.
Get hold of it. Attaboy. You gotta turn it. There we go. Attaboy. There we go. Turn it.
Okay, we're at the end of churning. Tonight's taken longer than normal, and we think it's because we did a smaller amount than we usually do. And for some odd reason, I don't know if that... I don't know what the deal is. It just has taken probably twice as long as normal. It took about a half hour tonight. 35 minutes. Usually
20-30 minutes.
Takes us, 20-30 minutes for a bigger batch. So as you can see, grab a light lamp there, Ben. The liquid has become thick, turned into ice cream, and what we'll do is we're going to take the paddles out, and we'll put a piece of plastic over the top of the container and put the lid back on, and we will pack it in ice and let the ice cream cure for about about an hour. They'll be ready to eat. This is where the two older boys usually fight to see who gets to lick the paddle. Dad and I are usually standing in line to fight right along with them. However, our youngest is at that age. You can hear him. He's reaching for more. He got to try the initial bite, and he apparently gives it his seal of approval. I'm sorry, I need to correct myself. Wax paper, not plastic. I don't multifunction very well. Recording and speaking is not a smooth process for me.
Blanket or something on top of that.
Okay, the ice cream has cured we've let it set for a couple hours, and we're ready to take the top off to see what kind of shape we're in. It's thicker than it was. It's not as cured as much as we'd like it to usually be, but nonetheless, it'll still be good. I mean, if what you don't eat, you can put in the freezer, and it does get quite hard at that point in time. That's what we have.